Not enough people are planning their work, and it's really, really obvious when you're a reviewer or you're marking assignments or you're reading a lot of publications and reports from government departments. Please separate the two critical tasks, the thinking, which is where most of the important stuff's happening, where most of the effort and time needs to be, from the writing, which is a much simpler task once the thinking has been done. In this video, I explain why, how to do it, and why it's important you do it for whoever your supervisor is. You simply plan to get the best product possible. I often tell the story before I started planning correctly and putting a lot of effort into it. I spend as much time planning as I do writing. It used to take me longer. The product wasn't as good, and I wasn't getting in the best journals. Since I started this process through trial and error over the last couple of decades, things have got better. They've got quicker, my writing's got better, and I'm hitting the top journals. So why plan? You're not two personalities, you're only one person. You can't be thinking about the ideas, which is the key thing. At the end of the day, it's the ideas that are key, not the words. You can get ChatGPT or whatever to put the words in there. The ideas are the peculiarly human thing, and that's the key thing, particularly in academic work. We're trying to separate out the ideas, thinking about the ideas, from actually doing the writing. You can't do both things at once. Some people claim they can multitask, but the most of us mere mortals, if you're going to put the sort of effort you need to be putting into thinking, you can't also be doing something else like writing. So separate out the two tasks. Instead of trying to do two things at once poorly, do them both to the best of your ability. Now, as you know, I prefer the mind map process, but most of my students, some of my students resist it. Some adopt it with great success, some of them resist it. I don't really care how you plan as long as you're doing these key tasks. You're writing down what each and every paragraph in your essay, your paper, your assignment is going to be about. And you're making sure that the order makes sense and they all flow logically from building up from simple ideas to more complex ideas and finally to a conclusion. After you've got to the stage where you know what each and every paragraph is going to be about, you then start putting some dot points down about the most important sentences, the most important things you're going to say in each paragraph. So typically a paragraph has 3 to 5 things in it. What are the sentences going to be? Now, please note these are the most important things. You can always write reams, books about anything. Typically in a paper you've got a word limit, typically in an assignment you've got a word limit. So you need to focus on the most important things. And when you're writing down these points, as few words as possible, usually 5, 6 words tops, to say what you're going to say in that sentence. Don't actually write the sentence because you've not achieved anything. We're trying to separate, remember, out the thinking part, the most important part, from the writing part, which is much easier once the thinking's been done. Step number 3, once you've written down what each paragraph's going to be about, and for each paragraph you've written down the various points about what each sentence is going to be about, for that paragraph, before you move on to the next one, you should think, is this the best order? Does it make sense? Am I going from simple to more complex? Do similar things, are they grouped together before I go into the next topic? What you often see is we start talking about one thing, we talk about a different thing, and then the person goes back to the original thing. That's confusing, that's painful to read. We want to group similar ideas together as much as possible, and in general go from the more simple to the more complex. Step number 3 is the best order. Step number 4, does the last sentence of my paragraph naturally lead me into the next one? That's where you get that flow that people are always whinging about. Now, it's not always possible, but usually if you're clever about organizing your ideas, you can put the idea last in the paragraph that sort of has something to do with what you're going to be talking about in the next paragraph. So I insist that my students do a plan first, even my postgrad students, my master's students when I was teaching coursework. that they do a plan before they start writing. And the comment that keeps coming back was, this is the first time I've ever done it in my life. I don't understand why no one's ever taught me to do this before. This is the key thing that students and academics need to know how to do. So try it out, do it properly, and you'll be converted. I'm yet to come across a person that can't. Now, why do professors like it? Well, I like it because it separates out the two tasks, thinking from writing. Thinking is the harder task. That's the thing that's special, and that's the thing that's going to make you into a good academic or not a good academic. That's the harder task. Writing, at the end of the day, you can get a school child to write it once the thinking has been done. The thinking is the harder task. Now, it's interesting with people from a second language background, they often think that the language is the problem. Well, it can be. But as I said, the major task is the thinking. So focus, if English is your second language and you know it's a problem for you, focus on the thinking, because that's the special thing. That's the thing that will make you into a great academic or not. Now, when I'm reading a plan, because it's only 4 or 5 words for each sentence, only a couple of words to describe each paragraph, I can quickly look at it in a page or two and know whether you're on the right line or not. Rather than reading reams and reams and reams, it was wrong from the get-go. You never thought it through, and trying to fix something that's an absolute box breakfast. It's much easier to me to quickly read a plan and adjust the plan, and it's easy to adjust a plan like this. I can quickly see what ideas are missing and pop them in. I can quickly see when your order doesn't make sense and reorder it for you. Now, if I'm doing that at the planning stage, you can also see what I'm doing and why. And you go, oh, that makes more sense. And then next time, you'll do that in your own work. That's the whole point of this, is that you're learning as you go. Other advice I've given you before in videos is keep your sentences short. No one wants to read those great big long sentences that go for a paragraph. They're painful, really, really painful. At the end of the day, you want to be kind to your readers. Okay, they're short of time. Often they're short of, let's face it, the reviewing world these days, competency and language skills. Be as kind as you possibly can to them if you want to get things accepted. Don't show off by using big words, particularly if you don't know how to use them correctly. Don't sound like you've just swallowed a textbook or you've just swallowed a dictionary. That's what tryhards do, new young academics do, and it's a real big red flag to most reviewers. Stick to your main idea. Try not to go off on little excursions. It is just a fact that reviewers have less capacity than what they previously had. They have less knowledge. They have less competency in theory. If you start giving them too many things to think about, they'll seize up and you'll get a bad review. It's just simple. Keep the story really simple, because reviewers aren't capable of the complex thing that they were 10, 20 years ago. It's just a fact. It's a sad fact. And repeat patterns wherever possible. So if you've got a pattern for a paragraph, I do this, then I do this, then I do this, and I use these words at the beginning, then I use these words, and I use these words. Try to repeat that pattern as much as possible. That takes a little bit more of the burden off the reviewer, so they can concentrate on the ideas, because they're more or less, predicting what will come next. They can concentrate on the ideas rather than the words and the structure. In sum, just be kind to your readers. The idea is to get them in a good mood, to be nice to them, to get them receptive to your message. So don't do anything by complicating it and using big words and using big sentences that's going to jeopardize that whole idea. This was for my current PhD student, and when I do these videos, when I go through these things with her, it's important to make a YouTube video and share the knowledge. Lots of students write to me and tell me that it's been helpful. If it has been helpful, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you flick the video to someone else and tell them to subscribe. We're all here for the same reason, to help others. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.